All right, I'm going to try this again. This is my second time going live this morning. First time didn't appear to work, so I'm trying again. Yeah, here we go. Now we have people joining me. Barbara Richardson, welcome this morning. On this Tuesday morning, June 1st, Janisa, good morning. Yeah, it was such a good day to yesterday, taking off and spending time resting and being with family, and those were good days. But they throw you off, right? Mike and Joe, good morning. Dana Kreshak, Lori Agassi, Jan Akins, good morning. Yeah, they throw you off. All day yesterday, I thought it was Saturday. It felt like a Saturday. And so then as the day ended, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, what am I preaching on tomorrow? I kept reminding myself, no, tomorrow's not Sunday. Elisa Knox, good morning. Daryl and Suzanne, good morning to you. Welcome, everyone, on this Tuesday morning, June 1st. We are in Psalm 31 today, with the theme of the abundance of the goodness of God, and David's experience of that. So I'm going to turn there, but I want to recognize that that June 1st is a very special day because it's my mother's birthday. Happy birthday, Mom. You're so faithful to watch these live streams and be with us. I want to shout out to you. Hope that your day is a special one today as we celebrate you. Lori Agassi, did I already say hello to Lori? Can't remember. Jim and Kathy, good to see you this morning. So Psalm 31 has 24 verses. We're not going to cover them all. In fact, I'm going to start in verse 19. And that's our theme verse for today. But I'm going to give some context to it to help us a little bit. And this is what David writes. This is a Psalm of David. And he says, "Oh, how abundant is your goodness, which you have stored up for those who fear you, and worked for those who take refuge in you, in the sight of the children of mankind." So this is a psalm of declaring the goodness of God and how great it is to serve the Lord, because he watches over all our steps and he rescues us and he provides for us and so on. But this happy note in the psalm isn't the only thing he talks about. And if you read the entire psalm, we know that David has just experienced deliverance from yet another enemy that is encamped against him. And he makes reference to that in the verses ahead. But I wanted to start with this thought of how abundant is your goodness, which you have stored up for those who fear you. And the first word I want to point out is abundant. So when you have something in abundance, you're not worried at all about it. In fact, you can be kind of reckless with it. It's like, oh, I spilled some of that, whatever I have a lot of. Or, ooh, that didn't quite work out. You're not trying to be ultra efficient with it. If you have something in abundance, you'll give it away. You're free to, oh yeah, take some of that. I'll never use all the stuff that I have. Here, take some of that. So the idea here is that there is so much goodness that is stored up, that God has stored up, that he is just, it's easy for him to give it away. And it's not that he just has this general goodness stored up, but it is goodness for those who fear him, who are putting their trust in him. It's stored up for you. It's stored up for me. And he's just up there just waiting to dole it out and to give us this display of goodness in a way that everybody can see before all the children of mankind, David says. And I love this picture. But to really appreciate, and I think this is David's point, to really appreciate this abundant store of goodness that God has for us, we have to experience want at times. And when we are in a serious need, and we are like, what am I going to do? Kind of, experience of our life. I don't really have a solution, or I'm crying out to God. I'm trusting the Lord, but my problems haven't worked out yet. And when God does display his goodness in those seasons of want, it just feels so satisfying. And we see the very character of God, who is fixing his attention on his beloved, those who fear him, us, you, me. And so David is talking about these things after having experienced this sense of want in his life. So look at verse 21. Blessed be the Lord, for he has wondrously shown his steadfast love to me when I was in a besieged city. So whether this is literal or metaphorical, it's easiest for us to apply it as metaphorically, right? I'm in this besieged city. The enemy is all around encamped against me. Basically it's a waiting game. They're cut off, food and water to a city. This is the point. This is a walled city. We've shut up the gates, and this is a waiting game. We're gonna wait out our enemy. Either they're gonna run out of food and leave, or we're gonna run out of food and surrender. And so when you have a sieged city like this, David has a lot of time on his hands just to be praying and say, God, okay, this one's on you. We've done everything we can. We're trusting in you. You are going to deliver us or not. So obviously, this is the end of the psalm, and he's praising God for the deliverance, so we know that. But David didn't know it in the time. Every time we get into this position of having to trust God, we don't know the outcome. And David is so transparent. I love this. And he says, there was a moment here when we were waiting in the besieged city, and I kind of faltered in my faith. I kind of lost a little bit of confidence that we were going to win. Maybe time had passed, and their water supply was running low. Their food supply was running low, which is how it works in a long siege. Verse 22, he says, I had said in my alarm, I am cut off from your sight. When it came down to the end, David's like, is this it? Is this how it ends? Is this when I see death? Has God finally lifted the covering of blessing on me, and now these walls are going to fall to my enemy. We're going to have to surrender. Those thoughts are crossing his mind, and we can all relate to that. How in those moments of weakness, when we're going through a prolonged period where of waiting or difficulty, and we don't see the outcome yet, we start to question, right? We start to think, all right, Lord, what's going on here? And we've read this idea from other Psalms as well. And this is kind of my point when I want to come to, is that we don't learn. First of all, we learn the abundance of the goodness of God, especially after we've experienced a period of want. So we see the importance of God allowing us to have these times of want in our lives, where things aren't working out. Maybe we're going through a particularly difficult time, or we're having to work a long period of time to achieve a particular outcome that seems a little bit elusive. When it finally arrives, we see the outpouring of God's goodness in our life, and that goodness is really valued most after a period of want. And that's the first point. But the second point is that this is not David's first rodeo. He has been in this place lots of times. We've read lots of Psalms about David being in trouble and how his enemies are against him. There are enemies outside the city. There's enemies within his own friend circle who are wanting to betray him at times or have betrayed him. He's on the run from Saul, who is jealous of him, and David's already been anointed king, but he's not king yet. And so he's on the run sometimes, and he's writing Psalms out of this. we know this isn't David's rodeo. From the time of his youth, he was out in the field, experiencing the hardships of being out in the wilderness, day in, day out, sleeping under the stars, protecting these sheep. He has had to defend his sheep from wolves, bears, lions. And it's in that time period where he's learning to trust God, learning to manage fear, manage his, or allow his faith to grow in that experience. Even as a young boy, all that pays forward when he comes into the encampment of Israel against the Philistines, and Goliath is there. David, having had all of this time in the field, practicing faithfulness, even against very real, ferocious, wild animals, he says, God has delivered me from the mouth of the lion. He's delivered me from the mouth of the bear, or the paw of the bear. He's going to deliver me from this Philistine. And he goes out and with great courage faces that giant. The point is, we don't learn to face the big issues without being faithful in the little. Every day, little and often makes much. We just put in the time, day in, day out, being faithful in the little things every single day. And all of that accumulates, all of that pays forward, all of that builds over time, so that when we do face these larger, when our city is besieged by an enemy, and it's a big deal, we can call upon all of that work we've done day in, day out, to be in the Word of God, to be in prayer, to trust Him with the everyday things of our life. And all of a sudden now we can put ourselves in that position of a great want, knowing that God's going to deliver us. But even David, in that great moment, still had to learn faithfulness. He'd taken everything he'd learned to that point and was applying it. But at some point he was saying, wait a second, is this the time I die? Have I been cut off from God? Because God hasn't delivered yet. So he kind of faltered. Even David, a veteran of faith, a veteran of trusting God, a man after God's own heart, still needed to learn more faithfulness. And God put him in this position, or at least allowed his enemy to be encamped against him for this length of time, so that David would kind of come to the end of his faith. It runs out a little bit, and he has to push a little further, and then God delivered him. And this is how David ends the psalm. Verse 23 and 24, the last two verses of the psalm. Love the Lord, all you his saints. The Lord preserves the faithful. It's like I've learned it yet again. The Lord preserves the faithful, but abundantly repays the one who acts in pride. Be strong. Let your heart take courage, all you who wait for the Lord. So David has renewed his strength. David has learned a little bit more about what it means to trust in the Lord. His faith was tested yet again. And that we all are there. We can all relate to that, how no matter how many times our faith is tested and we've grown, our faith gets tested yet again. And God continues. Living by faith is a perishable skill. We need to practice it every single day. And God's abundant goodness doesn't run out. He is there to continually display it on our behalf. And so working together, we grow in maturity. Working together with our testing of our faith and God pouring out His abundant goodness to His beloved, you and me, we grow in our maturity. And we don't stop growing until we see Jesus face to face. So that's the blessing for today. Put in the time today. It all pays forward. Be faithful today. Faithful in the little things. And then God will put you over to be faithful in many things. And so little and often makes much. So Lord bless you today. We'll see you again tomorrow morning.